My name is Alexa Williams, and I did my project on the lack of handicap accessible housing both on and off campus at USF. My issue was one that affected me personally. USF had a housing crisis at the beginning of this year, and their dorms reached capacity faster than they ever had before. And as a result, there was less off-campus housing available as well. And disabled individuals who required handicap-accessible housing were not able to get what they needed because a lot of the off-campus housing is not handicap-accessible. Despite being multi-floor apartments, they are not required to have elevators for some reason. The bathrooms are not handicap accessible at all. The beds are not handicap accessible. It also leaves you a smaller pool of choices to be able to choose from. My issue affected me personally because I was given incorrect information from the USF Housing Department, which should have been a trusted source. So because of the information that I was seeking out as a disabled individual, it was my disability in itself that caused the individual that I was speaking to at the housing department to gave me the incorrect information. I definitely felt oppressed in that time when I realized that I missed my own deadline, not for lack of trying, but because as a result of my disability, somebody that I was supposed to be able to trust gave me the incorrect information about how to get not just what I needed, but what by law I was entitled to have. I addressed my social injustice by attending a lot of online events that had to deal with accommodations for disabled students at USF. Unfortunately, one of the barriers that I faced was that there was no one person you could go to talk specifically about how to get on-campus handicap-accessible housing. I felt like a lot of the time I was being passed from person to person to person. And another one of the barriers that I faced came about when I did a lot of activism work with the deaf community because I'm an ASL interpreting major. But I'm not fluent, of course, because I have not finished the program, so I faced a lot of communication issues by not yet being fluent in American Sign Language. So when I was speaking to these deaf individuals about the problems that affected me personally, I found myself having to be very patient with myself and working around those communication issues for my lack of fluency. I think my project created change just because it affected me on such a specific personal level that I could sort of say, hey, this happened to me. It could happen again. This is why this happened. It's your job to make sure that people in the housing department are properly trained on how to go about giving the correct information for applying for on-campus housing. That was really it. It was me explaining that this whole issue came about because I was given incorrect information from a trusted source. I definitely brought that to a lot of people's attention, and despite that, there was nothing they could do to help me at this moment, which was frustrating. What I learned from doing this project was that being an activist in itself is a privilege. It takes a certain amount of energy that a lot of people take for granted and a certain amount of simple resources like just being able to get into your own car every day and go out and bring this issue out into the community. I can't do that. So being an activist is a privilege. Disabled individuals can be activists, but they need a certain level of accommodation and patience that I feel like most people wouldn't have unless it was brought to their attention just how much they take for granted every day. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm bringing to everyone's attention just how much most people probably take for granted. Just having the energy to be seen and be heard.